Do, do. So many pants. We are live. A little bit late. Sorry, had another phone call. Well, a phone call in between phone calls. Is this actually unmuted? Let's check. Uh, Let's do this. There we go. I can do the thing. Two. Hello. Okay, cool. It is working. I haven't used this bad boy in a while. I usually use it for voiceover work now, rather than any of this jazz, because the other microphone is more than good. So hello. Today is another live stream, of course, because it's live and it's streaming. And we're covering what's your podcasting flavor, apparently, according to my little book of notes. And when it comes to podcasting flavor, I have been mentioning this ad nauseum over the last couple of live streams. And I think it's important for people to understand that there are different styles of podcasting, because a lot of people don't pay attention to maybe the fact that they need more breaks than other people, or maybe that they need to do more, or maybe that they need to do seasons, or maybe that they need another person to bounce off of, blah, 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 blah. So today we're going to cover all of those things. I'm going to do the usual and check comments via my phone, because StreamYard still doesn't like phone. There we go. Hello. It still doesn't like it. StreamYard still doesn't like sharing comments and stuff, which is a bit strange. It makes me sad. Anyway, so this is going to be hopefully another fairly quick 20-minute video, hopefully less than 20 minutes. It doesn't need to be 30 minutes. There's absolutely no reason, unless I just start talking in, I don't know, similes or something. So podcast style covers, or podcast flavor covers two different things so far as how you present, and what might favor you. And if you have a neurodivergent brain, there'll probably be something that's a little bit better suited to you. I'm very, very aware that a lot of things out there are presented for neurotypical brains. And the problem with that is there's a lot of people who don't have neurotypical brains. So the idea of oh, let's just do the thing, it's just no, that's not how the wires in here work. They don't just do. They have a whole backstory before they actually go and do the thing. So in that case, we need to find better systems that work for people's brains. And that's why this even exists, because I have a little cookie brain. And honestly, without the bullet points down here, this live stream probably wouldn't have happened. Because I do like to talk. I have no problem talking, but also I need systems and I need a little bit of structure. Even though I don't like structure, I need a little bit of it. All of us do. So when it comes to your podcasting style, the first thing to think about is whether everything flashed. The first thing to think about is whether you're doing a podcast on your own, if that's a good idea, if you've got someone else to podcast with, if you're going to be doing an interview, solo or duo, or if you're going to do a panel, or if you're going to, pull some content in or whatever. And I have said this in quite a lot of detail, I think probably in the first or second live stream. But I wanted it to be here on its own so people can dive into this and actually just understand what's going on. So your first option is the Intrepid Solocaster. And a Solocaster is just a fancy way for saying you're podcasting on your own, right? And if you're podcasting on your own, it's this, basically. It's this entire setup where you're just speaking into a microphone, recording it, and then uploading it. That's it. And it can be across many topics or no topics or whatever you want. The only problem with being the Intrepid Solocaster is if you are having bad days or off days, or you need to go and do something else, everything stops because it's just you, right? And it's doubly more of an issue when you are having bad days, or when you need to take holidays off if you haven't planned for those things to happen, or pre-recorded things to be able to take on board. Those days when you don't need to be around. So that's something to consider. I'm going to go into the frequency of your podcasting afterwards. If you've heard this already, then, you've heard it already. But it's really important to be on top of it. Second option is the dynamic duo. So if you're a dynamic duo, basically it's you and your business partner, or you and a friend that you just enjoy really talking to and with and around, and you guys get to bounce off of each other. You guys get to pick each other up when you're having a down day. When one's having a down day, the other one can pick you up. When the other one's having a down day, you can pick each other up. If you're both having down days, you can pick each other up as well, because that happens too. Like, if you have down days in sync, synchronized down days, it's not a good thing. So I haven't had my coffee yet today, which is interesting. My brain usually is a little bit more all over the place, but it's not today because I've already been speaking. So with a dynamic duo, you can also halve your workload, which is quite good. So you can kind of discuss and agree what things each other does. So if you're not really technically minded, but the other person is, they can be in charge of editing the audio itself. If you kind of are more into show notes and website things, then you can take charge of that and they don't have to. So being able to delegate specific things is super amazing. Let it roll. Don't like have it set in stone forever, because if you have it set in stone forever, it's bad. All right, people start getting a little bit what's the word? Not reticent. They kind of just hate it, right? Like you just start getting a little bit annoyed by it, and over time, you start just kind of just almost had the word, not resigning. Okay, the word, the word that I'm talking about, and it's gone. I don't have it. Anyway, roll your job roles, okay? Always check in with each other to make sure everyone is happy and not, kind of getting annoyed with what's going on. Your next option is, I come up with the weirdest phrases, the Incorrigible Interviewer. Now, the Incorrigible Interviewer is very, very prevalent. You see them all over the place. I know I repeat these people over and over again, but they're my reference, my easy to pick references, because they're just everywhere in my space. So you have the likes of Joe Rogan, who interviews all the time. I don't think he's ever done a solo interview ever. Tim Ferriss was the second person actually, that I kind of went down the rabbit hole with podcasts, and he interviews people. He does do solos as well, but he does solo interviews as well. So he interviews other people. And an example of a duo interview kind of space would be Jocko Willink and Echo Charles, and they interview people. They interview each other, they talk to each other, they do their own dynamic duo setup, but they're also intrepid interviewers, incorrigible interviewers, where they bring someone else on. So doing that means you've got someone else's energy, you've got someone else's story, the excitement kind of keeps you going. Because again, if you're a solo caster, you can kind of break that by way of interviewing people, right? So it's not bad to swing back and forth between solo caster or a dynamic duo and interviewing and stuff. It's perfectly okay. But ultimately, you need to understand when it comes to interviewing someone, there's a lot of work, making sure that they show up. Like scheduling is really important. Being able to ask specific questions. So pre-screening questions with your guest is really important. Making sure their equipment is half decent. So if they're like, oh, I'm just going to use the microphone embedded within my laptop. No, don't let people do that, because if the laptop starts getting upset and the fan goes off, it's game over, right? Because now it's the fan and you can't hear the person, or they sound like they're underwater if there's echo cancellation. So all these kind of things start coming into play when you're an incorrigible interviewer. So that's something to think about. And then the last one is the panelist's host. That's a lot of words. The panelist hosts is where you are overlooking other people just discussing things. So you can kind of be, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, you can be the dungeon master, right? Where you overlook what's going on. You make sure everyone is kind of within line. You're in charge of housekeeping, so making sure the times are all okay. People don't meander too long. Try and make sure everyone is responding in a good chunk. So don't have, two really loud people just answering everything, and then the more quiet, polite people just don't answer anything at all, because you've kind of just failed as the host. So you need to be able to manage that. So it's like an interview, but an interview with like a panel of 4 or 5 people plus. I'd probably cut it at 5, maybe 6 if you're doing this all virtually. You know, if you have a Zoom room and you have 6 people in there. There are things like Squadcast and Riverside.fm that are options. I think they have a maximum of maybe 3 people and yourself. I think one of them you might be able to do more. But ultimately, being able to manage a flock of sheep, essentially, is really, really important when you're a panelist. Same rules from the Incorrigible Interviewer apply, whereby managing the emails, making sure everyone does, have a good microphone. If they need to have a decent webcam, have a decent webcam. If there's somewhere where, their internet's probably a bit flaky, kind of mitigate that. So they could jump in without a visual, but like you'll then need to doubly make sure you get that person involved because you can't see them, which is totally fine. Like having people on without the video is totally fine because if you're doing an audio-based podcast, that doesn't really matter. Like the visual cues are more for the people on the panel or interview or duo or whatever versus a video podcast. If you do a video podcast, if you do decide to record a video as well, then, still not seeing someone isn't the end of the world, but you still need to be able to manage that person and keep them involved and engaged in the entire interview. So that's that. Those are 4 different styles. There is a 5th one which involves taking things like webinars and seminars and throwing those up. I don't really mention that so much because that's more of an asset play. So, the whole repurposing content thing. So I don't really want to talk about it. So I'm not. Moving swiftly on, the next section, after figuring out you as a person and how you deliver your podcast, the next section is what's your speed. And when I say what's your speed, it's a case of what are these video game references? So I've got 2 styles here. One's from childhood, one's just because I'm watching Arcane on Netflix at the moment. Go watch it, it's amazing. So if you're constant, so like Joe Rogan, if your plan is to just constantly belt out content, regardless of your style, regardless if you're a solocaster, duo, interviewer or host, if you're constant, that means you're just constantly pushing episodes out, right? How you do it before, if you like preload and then just shoot stuff out, phrasing, if you do it that way, then you'll have time to rest. If you're just kind of on a reactive level, that's not great. And with constant, I have Command and Conquer. So it's high speed, low drag. I loved Red Alert too. What? Oh no, someone's calling me. No. That's strange. Oh, it's because it's on my laptop. Okay, cool. I had everything on airplane mode, and yet it still got through somehow. It's interesting. Anyway, so video game references. 1, Command and Conquer, you're constant. So you just constantly got a thing going out. The second option would be seasonal. So I've got League of Legends here for some reason, because they probably put things out as seasons. And if you're seasonal, you have actual breaks, right? So say you have 8 episodes in a season, and you can either choose to do it as a Netflix style drop. That's why I mentioned League of Legends. So Netflix style binge drop, where you just drop the 8 seasons there and there, and people can watch the entire 8 or listen to the entire 8 seasons in a day if they wanted to, which could be 8 hours of listening if you do 1-hour style podcasts. Or you can drip feed it. So you've already done everything, and you've set all the automation, the scheduling, blah, 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 and it drip feeds over the next 8 weeks, right? And people know that. Even if you do drop it as everything at once, you can quite easily still do promotions as a weekly drip feed to bring people's attention to that episode, to engage in a conversation, to engage your email list, to, have a blog post about it and have a whole discussion about it. You can still do that. I don't understand why people think like if you do a binge drop, like that's it. It's like, no. There is so much you can do with that. So depending on what you want to do, like if you want to have breaks, I advise you have breaks. If you want to have time off, I advise you have time off, but you need to plan it and you need to be proactive in planning it. So even with the constant style, I still recommend having a buffer, because I've seen with people, like, they have all these things in advance, and then life TM happens. I mean, right now, like, life happens because we've got the Decepticons and Autobots kind of having it out as viruses within our bodies. I'm referring to Omicron, obviously. I'm just scared of Starstream. If we get not Starstream, Starscream. If we get a Starscream variant, it's time to pack up our bags and go to Madagascar. But yeah, that's basically it. Oh, look at that, 15 minutes in. I managed to get everything in as quickly as possible. So I want you to think about that. To think about, do you want time to yourself? Yes. How are you going to do it? Do you know that you have peaks and troughs emotionally? Yes. How are you going to mitigate that? How are you going to manage that? Is there someone that you trust to bring in as your duo partner, and you decide what roles to hold on to? Or if you decide to go through the interviewing phase, do you have a system in place to make sure before you go into the interview all these things are covered, and then after the interview getting that interviewer to do a promotional post, when their episode is coming out, when it's come out, doing those kind of things is really important. If you're a panelist, it's the interview multiplied by however many people are on the panel. And the same goes with whether you're doing this all solo or if you're a duo. Like, you need to always make sure you've got that all covered. And then again, with the speed and the style of delivery, you need to really make sure you understand how you're planning your podcast. You do need to plan your podcast. Like, again, I've said this a few times and I'm going to keep on saying it. You do need to plan your podcast and make sure your breaks are involved, time off is involved, scheduling's involved, advanced planning. If you have social media content creation scheduler things, get all of that done. Get an Excel spreadsheet, get your VA on top of it. If you've got someone else, like, get your entire team. If you've got a team, get everyone to be on top of that as well, so you're not panicking when you take time off. Okay, cool. So that's me done with this episode. There's one more episode. It's a bonus episode about private podcasts, because I'm super excited with some new software that I've discovered is amazing for private courses. So if you wanted to make private audio courses, or you wanted to make a private email list only podcast, you can do that. And I'm going to show you how and discuss it a little bit in the next live stream, which will be tomorrow if you're watching this live, or if you're watching this on the replay on today, which is Tuesday the 21st of December. But these are all meant to be timeless, so I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, basically, next episode, we're going to cover that. And again, if you're watching this on the page, I'm going to put the page up because that's what I do now. I can't type today. s/www.audiofi.me/pnp. Is that it? Yes. Bang. So, I'll put that up there. Bang. So that's the webpage. Go have a noodle on there. All of these live streams are showing up as live videos as a free course. A 7-episode free course is on that page, and there's more explanations on that page about what's going on. So I'm creating a podcast network, and PNP stands for Podcast Network Project, because it's a project. I just basically want podcasting for people, especially for neurodivergent people, to be as accessible as possible, whilst considering the way our brains work and stuff. And it's a way of crowd resource sharing, rather than crowdsourcing. I can't speak today. Crowd resourcing is what we're doing, or what I'm doing, trying to get you guys into it, because I've got a team of editors. I've got some writers, some copywriters, not copywriters, but just copywriters. And we're basically looking at a way of making this affordable for you. So if you want to know more about it, click the link. Click the link here. I don't know if you can click it. Type it out, right? It's not long. I've deliberately made it short for a reason. Type it out. Go have a noodle. If you have questions, slide into my DMs, either on LinkedIn or YouTube, or Facebook, because those are the 3 places this is being posted. And I will see you in the next live stream. Okay, you guys have a wonderful day.